Anyway, I want to welcome you all to our Positive Mornings. Gosh, did I look forward to this or what this morning? This is getting harder and harder, but I'm so glad that all of you have joined us. And look at where you're from. If you look in the chat box, I assume all of you know how this works. The mute button is over on the left at the bottom, and then we have the video button right next to it. And if you're not speaking, put yourself on mute. And if you don't want us to see you because you're getting roots like me, which will be in a few weeks, you won't see any of me, or I'll start wearing hats. You can turn off your video, though it is really nice to see each other. I think it really helps with the connection. And so put your name and where you're from so we can see where you are, which is great. And this morning,
we have Toronto.
Yeah, we have another 10 people. So it looks like we're about 130, I think, this time. And if everybody will bring their friends, it'll be great. I really find these are really helpful for me, which is why I roped the lovely Wendy and Dana into doing these in the morning. I feel like, you know, we just got to set these weeks off straight and happy and positive because, boy, it's easy to get caught up in the negative. We've been having all kinds of other successful meetups online. We did our Covey first meditation online last night at Sunday evening, and it was terrific. So we're going to do it again next week with Kelly Ravoto, who is she's a TM meditator and instructor down here. And boy, it was a great way to end Sunday and prepare for Monday, I thought. So if you want to join us for that, you'll see the information going out. Look on our website, look at the CoveyClub site as well. You'll see all kinds of new stuff. I'm just going to start throwing new stuff at you, and you sign up for what you like, and then we will keep going on. And if I can reach out to all kinds of experts for all kinds of talks and discussions. We also had a great talk with Ginny Brzezinski, who wrote the book with Mika, Comeback Careers. And that was fantastic. And we got into a lot of the discussions which are in people's minds, which is how do you look for a job when there are no jobs right now? And it's really frightening. So, but that was really great. We'll do more. I'm going to alternate between those things. Wednesday evening, we have Joan London, who was the former host of GMA and now has gone on to be, she's her own health advocate, book writer. She's so inspirational. I spoke to her. I did a podcast with her, which is up in Reinvent Yourself, our podcast. So you can listen to that first and then come and ask her questions. I'd love it if you guys bring questions. It's like this, but you can get your own questions answered. And if it's not too huge, we can put you live on there to speak to her. She's just a lovely person. And just a really incredible example of somebody who has reinvented themselves because they had to. I mean, she was summarily dismissed after 20 years on Good Morning America as the #1 host because they thought she was too old. So anyway, she just has a wonderful story. And I can go out and get more people like that. There are tons and tons of people with books who can't do book tours now. Once I get a feeling of what you guys want to read about, hear about, what experts you want to hear from, I want to do a mix of sort of inspiration, education, and relaxation. So that's the combination. And anything else that you see or think of that CoveyClub could do to be of service, just go ahead and email me. It's Lesley, Lesley, @CoveyClub.com. Or you can reach out to any of us or put anything into the chat there and I'll make notes of it. So, what I was going to say is this is our second day of doing this. We started on Friday, which was great because that was International Happiness Day.
Who knew?
So today we are going to do staying present and review some of the tools that Dana and Wendy gave to us on Friday. So with no more discussion from me, I'm going to turn you over to Dana Hilmer and Wendy Perrotti. There you go. Take it away, ladies.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, ladies. Excited to be here, and we're so excited that so many of you are returning and that there are some new faces with us here on Positive Mornings. As Lesley said, today's topic is staying present. Each morning, we're going to pop in with you and we're going to introduce a topic, review the tool from the day before. We're going to give you a little bit of content around the topic. We're going to open up for questions and comments and get some voices in the room, and then we'll close each day with a new tool and some sort of little mini meditation that goes along with it. And an important thing to note is that these are not wartime tools, right? We're all here because there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety, and we've got a toolbox that can help with that. And we know that, as we talked about in our Friday program, that energy is also contagious and that we can spread positive energy just as well as we can spread negative energy. And that's what we're about here today, connecting to spread that positive energy and to give you a toolbox and a skill set that helps with that. Here's the hidden gem. These are the exact same tools that Dana and I use with clients who are reinventing their relationships, who are reinventing their lives to make their biggest dreams come true, who are working on just becoming their best version of themselves. So the tools that you learn here with us over these next week or weeks are the tools that will help you in any area of your life if you practice them. So today's topic, staying present. We spend most of our lives in the past tense and in the future tense, and we don't even realize it. Every time your brain is scrolling about what happened 5 minutes ago, what you said that you shouldn't have, what he said, what you should have done, what you could have done, what you regret, you're actually in the past. Every moment that you spend worrying about what might happen in the next moment, fretting over what you should do next, you're in the future tense. And everything that is real, including opportunity, only lives in the present moment. So the content and the tools that we're going to give you today are going to help you stay in that present moment. And you will feel better. You will feel less anxious because of it. Your relationships will get better. Your life will improve when you live most of it in the present moment, because that's what's real. And we closed Friday's call with a tool called the One Stone, which is really, in my toolbox, the #1 brain training tool to teach your brain how to stay in the present moment. It's a simple little tool that we talked about 10 breaths. You focus on a stone in your hand, direct your thoughts to anything you want to think about that stone. And when your thoughts get distracted, you bring them right back to the stone in your hand. I do have an MP3 with the exact instructions that we gave on Friday's call. So if you missed that call or you want the instructions, I'll get that MP3 to Marissa and Lesley so they can get it out to all of you. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Dana, who's going to give you some content on staying in the present moment.
Hello, ladies. Well, first of all, let me just kind of get a little bit of a read in the room. How many of you are having a challenge staying present with kind of all the chaos that's going on right now? I guess just kind of let me just see some voices in the room as to where you're showing up right now. Are you kind of living in a place of worry, or are you able to stay present more often than not?
I'm distracted.
Yeah, distracted. I mean, and there's a lot to be distracted by right now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of half and half, completely cannot find the present, worried about the future. Yeah. And of course, every time we look at the media, every time we turn on the news, we feel more and more of that, right? There's this kind of anxiety that we're getting all around us from all the reports that we get and how quickly things are changing. But today we want to talk about staying in the present. And Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is one of the big researchers in the world of mindfulness, he says that being present is nothing more, or the essence of mindfulness is nothing more than being truly present, truly engaged in what is going on in the moment. And it's interesting because there's so many times, even when something good is going on, we may be with our loved one, we may be just doing something we really love to do, but it's so easy to have our mind wander and to not be completely present. I remember there was a beautiful research study that was done several years ago with Joshua Bell, who's one of the world famous violinists. And Joshua Bell is so famous that he fills concert halls around the world consistently at very high prices. So they bring Joshua Bell into a subway station, and they decided to just kind of have him play, do what he does best. And he's playing in the middle of rush hour. And guess how many people actually stopped to listen to Joshua Bell in the subway station? And of course, I'm asking that in a leading way. But essentially, as people were rushing around at rush hour, almost nobody even noticed that it was Joshua Bell. Almost nobody even noticed that there was just beautiful music going on. Everybody was so busy, head down, rushing to where they needed to go. It wasn't until they announced that it was Joshua Bell that people actually stopped to notice. So the nature of our being present allows us to appreciate what is good in our life. You know, without being present, we're just not going to notice it, not to mention not appreciate it. I mentioned in our call on Friday that one of the things I so cherish, and I cherish now because my son's not with me at the moment, my oldest son, when he was in high school, every time I drove into the driveway, when he noticed, he would come out the front door, run out and greet me at the car and give me a big hug. And at the time, it just stopped me in my tracks, because usually when I was coming home from work, and I was kind of in my head, you know, you're thinking about, okay, what do I need to do? I need to get dinner on the table. I got to get the homework going. I got to get Mikey to basketball. I got Danny, you know, like your head is kind of going with all the activities need to be that evening. But the moment he came running out the door and gave me that hug, it completely put me into the present. And what I love now is I so appreciate it now because I appreciated it then. If I wasn't being present with it, I would have taken it for granted, right? I would have completely taken it for granted. So we need to focus on being present with what is good and being present with the things that are challenging, right? Just being grounded in the reality of what is. There's a lot of research that shows that we will actually be happier being present with something we don't enjoy than being not present with something we love, right? So how many times have you been with one of your favorite people in the whole wide world and they're telling you something and your mind is off on the do list? Or maybe you're having sex, right? And your mind is off making dinner, right? I mean, the reality is we can't enjoy those things that we love when we're not being present. And so it's a matter of taking a breath, recentering, and having ourselves really, really focus on what it is that's going on at that moment. We talked last time about an exercise that I did in my positive psychology program. It was a listening exercise. And it was probably one of the most simple, but one of the most profound exercises in the entire program. And the instructor basically said, "How are you? How are you really?" And what we needed to do is we paired off in pairs. And with that question, one person shared how they are, and the other person simply listened with kind eyes. For 3 full minutes, they listened with kind eyes. No interrupting, no interjecting. Oh, yeah, I understand also, right? Like we always want to connect with the person, so we interject. Oftentimes, the people that we know the best, we already fill in their sentences. We don't even listen because we know what they're going to say. But in this exercise, how are you? How are you really? And being listened to for 3 minutes was unbelievably beautiful, intense, emotional. I mean, we had Kleenex boxes going around the room because it made you realize that there's so few times in our life when we feel truly 100% listened to. And this is being present with those that we love. And this is one of the biggest things that you can do to increase your happiness, actually, because one of the biggest determiners of your happiness is the quality of your relationships. And a big, huge part of that is our ability to be present and to appreciate that person and also to listen. in our relationships, if we can seek to understand somebody and also have them understand us, to not put on shows, to not put on facades, to not, basically to lean in to being vulnerable and to truly speak our truth and to truly listen. That is the essence of being truly 100% present with somebody. And the more we can do that, the more the quality of our relationship will increase. So, it's interesting when we talked about the importance of being present and listening, we talked about thinking about it like a movie. Like when we're watching a movie, we're on the edge of our seat. We can't wait to see what happens next. We're not interrupting. We're not assuming, right? We are on the edge of our seat, waiting to see what happens. And if we can listen to the people in our life in the same kind of way, I can't even imagine how beautifully that would shift our relationships. So the importance of not only being present with what is going on in your life, and certainly being present with the positive, but also being present with the people that are in our life, even if it's just for 2 or 3 minutes. There's actually a lot of research that shows with children that if we can be 100% present with them for just 5 minutes or 10 minutes in a day, which doesn't sound like it's hard to do, but I think if we all really are honest with ourselves, we don't always do that, right? I know myself, one of my things that I'm personally working on is being more present at home, because when I'm home, I'm multitasking. When I'm home, I'm, busy cleaning and busy doing whatever as I'm listening. But the minute you stop and you truly listen, it makes a world of difference. And what they've shown with kids is if you're present with them for all of 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, 100% listening to them on their terms, that wards off a lot of the behavioral issues that children can have. And it's almost like we're filling their bucket, and we need to fill each other's buckets. So that's one beauty of being completely present with the people that we love. The other thing is, right now, it's a time where we all feel very overwhelmed by everything that's going on. And I think many of us, because we're busy, because we have different things, responsibilities in life, we have work, we've got family, we've got all these different responsibilities in household, a lot of times people are overwhelmed. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I say hello to somebody, hey, how are you? Usually the answer is busy, busy. How about you? Right? Do you all get that kind of response? The fact that we're saying that we're busy means that we're not being focused on the present, because you can only do one thing in the moment. Being busy is really a mindset. It's really your interpretation. It's your letting your head move forward. It's letting your head move to all the things that are on the do list and not being truly living in this moment. So being busy, quote unquote, and being overwhelmed is really a habit. It's a habit that we've taken on of thinking about everything at the same time, trying to do more than one thing at the same time. That's a habit. And as soon as we can stop that habit and kind of reel it in and just say, you know what? I'm doing only what I'm doing in this moment. And I actually have a quote that I wanted to read to you. It's by Norman Fisher, who is a Buddhist poet. He says, the perception of busy. Most of us judge how busy we are by how much we have to do. When there are too many things to do, we think we're busy. And when there isn't much to do, it feels like we're not busy at all. But in fact, we can feel busy when there isn't that much to do. And we can feel relaxed even when there is. The state of busy and not busy are not defined by how many things there are to do. Contrary to popular opinion, there is no such thing as multitasking. The brain can tend to only one thing at a time. Being too busy or not being busy is an interpretation of our activity. Busyness is a state of mind, not a fact. I love that, right? Busyness is a state of mind, not a fact. No matter how much or how little we're doing, we're only just doing what we're doing, simply living in this one moment in time. I just think that's so beautiful. And when I read this the first time, it really hit me, because I am one of those people that usually multitasks. And I always have been one of these people that almost prides myself on being busy. And I love having lots of things going on. And at times it overwhelms me. But when I read this, I was like, you know what, you're right. Busyness is just a state of mind. It's me thinking about everything that I still need to do. We can only simply live this one moment that we're living at this one moment in time. So Dana, please share that quote. I would be happy to. In fact, I'll send it to Lesley so she can go ahead and post it. It's a quote by Norman Fisher, who is a Buddhist poet. So how does this pertain to what we're all dealing with now, right? Like right now, it is an overwhelming time in the sense that we're dealing with uncertainty, we're dealing with vulnerability, we're dealing with fear. We have no freaking clue what is going to happen. And that is a really hard place to be because we humans do not like vulnerability. We do not like uncertainty. And of course, we hate fear. So the best thing that we can do in this moment is to stay as present as we can in the moment that you're living. We don't know what's going to happen 1 week from now or 1 month from now. And every moment that we spend worrying about that, we're robbing ourselves of our ability to enjoy the present. And there actually is an awful lot that's going on right now that we can take in that it's good. I mean, none of us want this crisis to happen, but the reality is it's forcing us to slow down. It's forcing us to be home and to be more with the people that we love. And I'd love to hear actually in the chat box, what are some of the things that you're doing now that you are forced to be slowed down? What are some of the things that you're enjoying, I guess is the better way to say it. What are some of the things you're enjoying now that you are actually forced to be home and to slow down? Yard work, yeah. Writing, beautiful. Longer walks, yes, I've been loving longer walks too. Zoom calls with girlfriends. Actually, I'll interject, it was really fun. My very dear friend had her 50th birthday yesterday and we were gonna take her out for dinner, but we made it a Zoom call with 6 of us instead and it was so much fun. Zoom coffee club, working in the yard, no commute, working out at home, calls with friends, cooking, yes, awesome. Walks with the kids, phone calls with parents and grandparents, pulling out the recipes, right? So there really is a lot of beautiful things that are happening right now. And I think every one of those things that you're saying and that you're mentioning are the things that you're doing because you're being present, right? With the people that you love, letting myself enjoy my children, family time. Yes, beautiful. So Ellen Langer, who is also a researcher who studies mindfulness, she says a quote, and I love this. She says, life consists only of moments, nothing more than that. So make the moments count. And that's what we really want to hone in on today. And we're going to have more conversation around is what can you do to make the moments count? Even when the moments right now feel a little bit scary. What can we do to make these moments count? And what can we do to make us, as we zoom out like a month from now, look back on this time and say, you know what? I made this time count. I enjoyed that time. There's nuggets in those days that were scary that I really loved. So what can you do right now that's going to make you say that in a month? Right? And what's interesting, just like how my son ran out the door and gave me a hug and I can recount that now and appreciate it now, it's because I was present with it then. You're going to be making those same kind of memories now, the more present you are now that you're home with the people that you love, right? So create those memories and make those moments count so that a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you can be talking about this time in a way that's beautiful. So one of the questions that we have that we wanted to, find our question is, when is it that you find it most challenging now to be present? We'd love to just kind of get some voices in the room on that. When do you find it most challenging right now to be present?
Go ahead and pop your answers in the chat and we'll call on some folks.
When the news is on, big time.
1 a.m., around 4 a.m., yeah, the middle of the night.
Yeah, bedtime. I'm tending to my students, yeah. Going to sleep. Thinking about work and what to do. Yeah, never-ending news cycle. The news can really hijack your brain, right? So I'd encourage you to be intentional about when to turn on the news and when to turn it off. Because if that news is going on constantly, it's just going to take over. So be really intentional about that. When you're outside, you're most present. Beautiful. Getting sucked into the news. Yeah.
So let's bring someone who's got a midnight stress thing into the room. Maybe how about Jacqueline? Says Jacqueline Bruno. Do you want to unmute and talk about what happens to your head at bedtime?
Yeah, I think it's probably just the first time that I've slowed down enough to think about it, and then it's that time just right before going to sleep.
And what happens exactly? Good. Let us in your head.
That's a scary place.
For all of us.
No, I think it's the. So I think I've been very intentional about what news I'm letting in and how much I am watching it. But I start kind of doing a deep dive in my brain of I wonder what that headline meant. I wonder what does this mean? And I start more worried about the future. Like, well, okay, so this isn't just impacting this week, this month, this quarter, and even thinking about how last week that was not a thought that was in my head, right? This time last week, I thought, oh, my work for the next month is going to be impacted, and it's going to be significantly more than that. So I start worrying. The what ifs take over.
The what ifs, yeah.
So I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing like all heads are nodding. Jacqueline, you are not alone. When it gets quiet, that's when our brain starts spinning the stories about the what if stories, right? We have time to think about it. We have time to mull it over. And it's really important in those moments that we're able to separate the facts from the stories. And we're also able to separate what's useful in that moment. Okay, so there are times where it is useful to allow yourself to think about the things that are in your head. Okay, I'm worried about what's going to happen next quarter. I'm worried about what's happening to my retirement fund. I'm worried about keeping my family safe. Those worries are triggers for us to make plans. Okay, they're triggers for us to take action. And so we're not saying that worry is something that we're going to banish. It's part of human existence, right? It's part of who we are as humans, and it is a trigger for us to move forward. But it's not always useful. So the two things that I want you guys to learn how to do is in separating. The first separation is the facts from the stories. Okay, what are the facts and what are the stories that we're making up about the facts? So, for example, the stock market is down X number of points. That's a fact. The story that, holy smokes, I'm going to be eating beans out of a can when I'm 72 years old is completely a fabrication on the fact. So when we're able to dial back to the fact, we're able to actually use those facts to plan rather than spiral into fear or story. So that's the one separation that's really important to be able to do well. And like all the tools that we teach you guys here, it takes practice. And if you try to do it only when the shit hits the fan in your life, it's going to be really, really hard to use the tool. So use these tools even in the easy moments, because it's going to make the difficult moments much, much, much simpler for you. The second thing that's important in separation is this a useful time for me to be embarking on this thought? Okay, because bedtime is not, we need rest. Our brains need to shut down. There's a whole, and again, you guys can all get on with me offline. I'm happy to brain geek out with you on why this is, but there's a whole thing that happens in our bodies. Our brains need to turn off and reboot the entire system for a certain number of hours every day. Otherwise, everything is compromised. So to be able to, at bedtime, recognize and practicing that one stone that we taught you several times a day will train your brain to have the ability to do that. Recognize, I'm worried. I'm in an anxious state. I'm future casting right now. to say, okay, I know that what I need to do is separate the facts and decide what I need to plan based on those facts. And I know that tonight is not the time to do it. I'll park it because I can trust that in the morning, I'll deal with what's important and I'll release what's not. So just telling yourself that you have this under control, that you understand that piece, will alleviate the anxiety. And then you can use the one stone or some of the other mindfulness tools that we're going to give you to shift your distracted brain into a sleep mode. Does that make sense, Jacqueline? Cool, I'm getting the head nod.
The one thing I find is so fascinating too, to kind of add on to what Wendy is saying, more often than not, what we're reacting to is the story that we're creating about a situation, right? Because what we do is we act like the story is the fact. We almost forget that the story is something we made up in our heads. So, and it's just the way our brain processes information. We need to make sense of things. So when something happens in the world, when there's facts, you know, the stock market went down, for example, the way we process it is to make a story. That's the way our brain works. And so we need to challenge ourselves to come up with other ways to interpret facts that move us forward in a more empowering way. And so the power we have is in really catching ourselves in that moment when we realize, ooh, I'm going down that negative spiral, or oh, I'm going down that whole worry train. When we catch ourselves in that moment, we have to just kind of bring ourselves back to, okay, very simplistically, what are the facts of the situation? What is another story I can create? Or what is another possible explanation that would allow me to move forward in a better way? Because the reality is we're buying into a story anyway. Why not create one that actually works for you, right? I mean, I think that to me was kind of the biggest aha when I was learning this stuff is, wait a minute, this is a story anyway, so let's just make up one that works as long as it's grounded in the fact, right? Everything needs to be super grounded. We're not talking about Pollyanna, let's pretend things are fine when they're not. Super grounded in the facts, and what can I create for myself? What is an interpretation I can create that's actually going to help me move forward in a way that allows me to take action in a way that I'm proud of and allows me to show up in a way that I'm proud of, right? So we have that ability to make those choices, like Wendy said, and practice it. But boy, it's a challenge, and it's a practice. It's a practice we have to consistently remind ourselves of. I saw a couple suggestions here in the chat room. I just wanted to draw out if I can find them again. Somebody was mentioning, I've dealt with the same thing and started journaling, says Lauren. Just at that time when I wake up, it's helped, and also having meditation apps. Insight Timer is one that she mentioned, which I thought sounded great.
I love Insight Timer.
I haven't used that one. What's that like?
It's a free downloadable app. There are free meditations on there. You can create your own meditation by setting a series of like bells and sounds and background noises, which I love to fiddle with. You can set the amount of time that you want to meditate, and they have all kinds of little courses and programs. It's uber easy to use, really intuitive, and there's a lot on there, and it's free.
Great.
It's a really cool app. Rebecca Kavanaugh, if you want to unmute, you mentioned something that I saw a lot of in the chat. It's difficult to stay present in meetings, which seem to be all day. You want to tell us a little bit about that, your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to working remotely on occasion, so I don't mind that, but it seems like since we've started this, everything is a meeting. I mean, it's not like, I have a phone, you can call me. It's not like we have to schedule a meeting that is scheduled for an hour of my time. And then, a lot of times the meetings go down the rabbit hole of, well, what about this? What about that? I'm not getting any work done. I just feel like all I'm doing all day is sitting in meetings. And some of them are truly about, this situation and what are we doing to address it, not just with employees, but also with our business. I mean, what are the things that we need to do to protect the business and the interests of the organization? But again, I felt like there was one day last week where I was seriously in meetings from 8:30 to 3:30, and that's all I did. So nothing, and I've got people who actually want me to, provide them with things, have asked me to create things for them. And I'm like 5 days down the rabbit hole trying to get back to that and figure out, okay, well, wait a minute, somebody asked me for that agreement. How am I going to review that and get it to them in a day when it's really something that should have taken 2 days, but I've been in meetings for 2 days. So some of the meetings I find myself not really paying attention and, trying to do research on the side, which is not staying present. And so I find myself doing that a lot. And then it does seem to bleed over into other parts of my life where I can't just pay attention to this. I might be watching a TV show, but I'm also checking my phone. So it's just trying to, dial that back a little bit.
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts that popped up. Wendy, do you want to go first or do you want me to chime in?
Go ahead. I'll do mine after.
Just so one thought I had for you, Rebecca, is do you have the ability with your work schedule to block out time for yourself a couple times during the day so you have chunks or nobody can schedule a meeting?
I do, but people, because of this situation, they've been just scheduling meetings and saying, please try to make this meeting. You're just like, okay. But, there are some where I'll just say, no, I can't do that. Or if somebody has truly scheduled a meeting over another meeting, then, I have to figure out which one to go to. But I think as this goes on, and I imagine we're going to be doing this for not just, 4 days, that, yeah, I think people are going to have to start doing that. It's just saying, if you truly need me for something, please call me. Don't schedule a meeting, because we do still have to get work done.
Yeah. And I was just going to suggest that. I think that's a perfect thing to do. The other thing is there's a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and I love it. It's basically a book about time blocking. But he says, if you can start the day asking yourself the question, what is the one thing I can do today that makes everything else either easier or unnecessary? And do that first. So I'd love to see you be able to time block a chunk of time that allows you to do your most important project first. The other things are going to fill in, right? But if you can end the day, you're never going to end the day with your do list done. It just doesn't happen, right? So if you can end the day knowing that at least you got your most important thing done, or you had your time dedicated that you were able to set aside to at least hammer away at that most important thing, right? That's where that anxiety can come in. So if you know that you can schedule that first, then the meetings can follow around it or other projects around it. So the idea is kind of do that big boulder first. If you envision a jar, you put the big rocks in and all the other little stuff fills in. But if you would put all the little stuff in, the big boulders never fit, right? So trying to do what you can do to create some healthy boundaries in such a way that you can schedule the time for the thing that truly is most important to you, and then let the other stuff happen around it.
Right. I think, prioritization is going to be key during this time, I think.
Yeah. And communicating that too. Sorry, guys, I'm not available for meetings between 9:30 and 11 or whatever that time frame is for you. Just so you can create a healthy boundary around it, so you can have some of that peace of mind, because you're just not going to have that peace of mind if you never get to your most important projects.
So boundaries are always number one, right? That's how we protect ourselves from all sorts of distraction in life. One of the things that we actually teach in executive presence programs and in productivity programs in corporate are mindfulness techniques for managing up and sideways. And so this little thing that you're learning to do with the one stone, this is a stone in my hand, this is my foot hurts, this is a stone in my hand, you can actually do in a meeting. So you can help the people in the meeting to focus by keeping them out of story. And you do that by using the tools, some of the tools that we talked about on Friday, acknowledge and validate, right? If you interrupt someone and try to refocus them, they're going to feel chastised. They're going to feel chastened, and the energy in the room is going to change. Okay, it's going to get like this. If you say, wow, I hear that that's really important to you. It sounds like you've put a lot of thought into that. Any sort of acknowledgement. You don't have to agree with them. You just acknowledge what you're hearing. This sounds important. You've got a lot of energy around that. That sounds exciting. Whatever's appropriate. You can now shift to a question that brings the focus back to the topic at hand. And if you do that enough times in a meeting, you start to not only, you'll shorten the length of the meeting, you'll keep the meeting uber focused, you'll also train your colleagues to do the same thing. It's amazing how people respond to modeling. So by acknowledging when somebody is like going off on the story, okay, what are we going to do about this? This. Here you put a lot of thought into that. What can we do with that that moves us closer to X? And you bring it right back to the topic at hand. Okay, so that same techniques that you're using in remaining present and One Stone can help you refocus meetings, refocus colleagues, and keep things on task, on topic, and way shorter.
I'm seeing some great suggestions too about different apps here. Calm is a great one. Think Up affirmation app. 10% Happier by Dan Harris. Tara Brock. So yeah, there's some really, really great resources out there. One of the questions we wanted to ask you too is, during the time that we've been all dealing with what the kind of craziness that's going on, what is a moment or a memory that you have created because you were really present during this time? Share with us something beautiful that happened because you were present and you did create something beautiful with this time that you have. Does anybody want to kind of chime in so we can hear your voice in the room? Who has experienced something really beautiful? Maybe just a simple little moment, but something that was beautiful because you were 100% present with it. Playing ping pong with my 16-year-old, awesome. My moments with my college daughter laughing at pet TikToks. Our Zoom family calls, beautiful. Self-care, oh, love to hear that. Deeper conversations. I would say one thing I've been so enjoying at night is I have 3 teenage boys, but we've been cooking together, and it's such a simple thing, but we're taking time with it, and we're taking time at the dinner table and sitting there for a full half hour, enjoying dinner, enjoying conversation. All too often we're in the evening running from one activity to the other and just throwing food on the table to have it be done, just to get it over with. And we're just enjoying good food, just talking and making food. It's really been nice.
Yeah, we had a family game night the other night, which we haven't done since the days when we roped our kids into sailing and playing Parcheesi on the boat. And we had a blast. It was really, really fun to get back to doing some of those sorts of things, just the 4 of us around a kitchen table. It's a gift.
Yeah. You reminded me of Parcheesi, Wendy. I haven't played that in a long time. I'll have to find that again.
We actually didn't play Parcheesi. We played some game called the Oregon Trail. It's a card game based on some really old school video game.
Oh, cool. So one of the other things we want to do in our calls too is just to be available to you, to support you with wherever you're at. So we'd love to just open it up that if anybody would like to just kind of share what's going on with them and would like a little bit of coaching support around it, or just conversation around it. Because the reality is sometimes we think that what we're wrestling with, that we're alone, and we're so not alone. By you voicing what's going on with you, that what you're challenged by, you're going to find that everybody in this room is going to be kind of chiming in, having a similar experience. So, so there's a benefit just to that as well. Hello.
Hi. So I guess I'm in a, I don't know, maybe slightly different. You're all worried about too many work meetings. I'm self-employed. Things have been a little bit difficult before this. I'm in media strategy and advertising. One of my clients totally cut their budgets because it's the top culinary school around the world, and 50% of their students are coming from Asia. So in one phone call, I lost 1/3 of my income. My other big client is a hospital, and they're kind of, they didn't cut their budget yet, but they want to lay it low for the next few months. I get paid when the advertising runs. So I'm always anxious about, one of my calls with Lesley a month ago or 2 months ago was about this before this disaster. But I'm loving these. I'm sitting here writing everything down because I meditate and I do all the right things, but it's so hard not to have the stories in your mind because except for, I'm getting very personal, except for the fact that we just sold my mother-in-law's condo after she passed away, and I have like this much money in it, I'm using it. And then I look at the investment account and it's shrinking because of just the economy. And it's the reality. I'm not the only one, but I'm like, there's a whole conversation going on about freelancers and self-employed people that don't have a small business like a store and are in a corporation. And we're going to be falling through the cracks because my tax return still makes me look like I'm wealthy and I don't have cash flow anymore. And we're not going to get any of the money from the government, even though it's not a lot. And it's just kind of crazy. I mean, it may come back, but it's like the next 6 months. I mean, that's why we're going to be stuck in our houses till June. And then top it off with the fact that my daughter and my grandchildren live in Israel and I had to cancel my trip for next week or 2 weeks from now. And that's supposed to come in August. And it's so much uncertainty. It's hard to live. So any advice? I mean, all this stuff is wonderful and I live my life like this, but it's not working when you're kind of worried.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. First of all, I want to just thank you for sharing. And also, I'm sure as you're saying what you're saying, I think we all have some version of that that's going around in our head, right? I'd love to just kind of see how many of you are feeling a bit fearful right now about what's going on with your job, with the economy, from a monetary perspective. Just chime in the chat room. I know that's certainly the conversation that's top of mind in our house, and what my husband is certainly really wrestling with. Yeah, totally. Everything's getting tighter all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as freelancers, as consultants, as coaches, as people who work on our own, service providers, we are, all of us are in the same boat, Andrea. We're looking at a world where one phone call changes a huge income stream for us. We're looking at a world where, because the world is in crisis, and leaning in to help the brick and mortars, they're seeing service-based businesses as, you should be providing your services for free. This is the time to lean in and volunteer. Don't charge us anything or cut your prices, because time is not the same as product in that mindset. So across the board with my clients who are self-employed, many of which are solopreneurs, they're feeling this sting and they're feeling the same worry and fear as you. And while there's not one answer, I wish that I had a magic bullet to give you, Andrea, and say, okay, here are the 3 steps that are going to like turn your business on its ear. It's very individual, right? But what I can guarantee you, and what I do know works across the board, is employing the same tools about staying present in the moment and not staying with those stories of worry. And the reason for that is, in worry, you're focused on what you know. When you're in fear, you're focused on, I lost this client, I need to replace it with a similar client. It's my business is this, and here's the 4 steps that I have done to get clients in the past. I need to take those 4 steps. It's a good idea to probably try those 4 steps, but chances are, as the marketplace changes, you need to be more agile than that. And when we're not in a place of fear, when we can bring ourselves back to only looking at the facts in front of us, that's when we have the greatest capacity to innovate, to be creative, and to be agile. And in those moments, we see opportunity that was always in front of us, but that we're incapable of seeing when we look at our lives and our businesses the way that they've always been. And there's a book by David Rock called, it's either Brains at Work or Minds at Work. I think it's Minds at Work by David Rock. And he talks about the science of innovation in there. I'd really recommend that anybody who's a solopreneur who's feeling the pinch right now, read it. It's a great primer of how you can use your brain and the way that your brain likes to work to innovate during difficult times. Because let's face facts, there's no bibbity bobbity boo here for any of us. We're really going to need to look at our businesses and the world and find the place that we all mesh, that we mesh with what's going on in the world, that we mesh with what's in the marketplace. And we can only do that from a place of calm. Creativity only comes from a place of spaciousness and calm. I hope that was helpful.
You know, Andrea, too, this actually, I don't know if you were able to join us on Friday. I think you were there Friday.
Yeah,
Right?
she was
Talking
there.
about the positivity ratio, right? This also kind of ties into that because, and for those of you that didn't join us on Friday, the positivity ratio is the work of Barbara Fredrickson. And it talks about how if we can be intentional about having more positive experiences and emotions in a given day relative to negative, we're operating in a very different place. And that sounds very obvious, but what she found is the ratio is pretty specific. If you can have between 3 to 1 or between 3 to 1 to 7 to 1 positive experiences to negative, you're operating in a place now where you can think outside the box. So when we're all kind of in a place of fear or depression or just flat out anxiety, we're kind of seeing the world through a very narrow lens. We're kind of bouncing around in our little box. But when we have more positivity in our life, we become more expansive. She calls it broaden and build. It means now that we can see possibilities that we didn't see. We can see opportunities. We can solve problems. We have an energy that we bring to everything that we do. It's very, very different. And so to change this ratio, it's positive experiences is in the numerator and negative experiences in the denominator. And all you need to do is be intentional throughout your day to have little 5-minute or 10-minute, activities that bring about more positivity. So what is something I can do today for 5 minutes or 10 minutes that simply makes me feel good, that I just simply enjoy because I want to enjoy it? It could be calling a friend. It could be going outside for 2 minutes and just breathing the fresh air. Those little moments of positivity, it's called the positivity spiral. It really goes with you throughout the day, just like the negative thing does, right? We all know how something negative happens and it puts us in a funk the whole day, right? Because we have a negativity bias as human beings, we need to be intentional about raising the positive, which also means we need to be intentional about decreasing the negative. So what are some of those things that suck you dry, that drain you? And one of the things when we were talking about on Friday that was resonating for everybody right now is the news, right? So whatever it happens to be for you, those things that are draining you, those people that are draining you, those mindsets that are draining you, being intentional about having less of that, being intentional about adding more of the positive. And that does kind of do what we're speaking with Andrea and to all of us who are dealing with uncertainty, whether it be with health or with finances, which I think so many of us are dealing with. If we can keep ourselves in that place, that much more positive, expansive place, we're going to be able to solve problems much more easily. The other thing that was popping up for me is to ask yourself, and this is a challenge, this would be a journaling challenge, to ask yourself, what can I do today that will create an exciting opportunity 1 month from now or 2 months from now, right? Because if we can use this time to either lay the foundation for another project or lay the foundation to further our marketing, for example, whatever we can do today that allows us to create something and have a much stronger foundation for what it is we want to be doing in a month. I think that is a beautiful place to put our focus, because right now we can't necessarily manage or control, certainly, what's changing and that the things are shifting. But what we can control is what direction do I want to head? And when we know what direction we want to head, we can lay that foundation, right? So for me, part of it is I've got to update the stuff on my website. That update material has been lingering in my mind forever, but now is the time I can take for that. And you know what? When I go out and do other business outreaches in the future, I'll be in a stronger place because I updated the website. I'm just saying that as an example, but this is a time that we can focus on those things, laying the foundation so that we can create new and have more opportunities in a month.
And we don't do that when we're afraid. When we're afraid, we have henny penny head and we say, the sky is falling, I need to fix it now, I need to fix it. When we're in fix it mode, we're not laying foundation. And so the tool that we're going to give you today is super helpful in getting out of that fear mode. And it's even quicker than the one stone, even simpler than the one stone, and an excellent way to train your brain to greater focus. And I call it 5 to Focus. And you can use it as a focusing practice, or you can use it to actually reduce anxiety or panic in the moment. So for those of you who are prone to panic attacks or high anxiety, this is an incredible tool to use in anxious moments. And it's simple. It just is about bringing yourself into the present moment by using your surroundings. So you feel that anxiety in your body. For me, I call it foot on the chest. I feel the foot on the chest. I know that anxiety is coming. That's the trigger for me. And always deep breath is the way to start. And here's a little bonus hint. Start with the exhale, okay? Because chances are if you're feeling anxious, you've been holding your breath, okay? So start with a, you can even sigh or shout if you're alone. And then big inhale and exhale. And then your 5 to Focus are just things in the room. 1, Mercury glass lamp with the fish ornament that Gloria gave me. I love that. 2, a series of typewriter prints that remind me, write every day. 3, sitting at my desk looking at a Zoom screen with faces that make me happy. 4, lamp that I bought in an antique shop in Stockbridge when I was still in college. I can't believe I still have it. 5, coffee mug that's empty, and I'm excited to fill it with tea because that's what comes next for me. Okay, so whatever is around you, you can use to bring you into the present moment. And when those stories start to enter back in, when the somatic or body cues tell you that anxiety is coming back, exhale, and with your deep breaths, 5 to Focus. Any 5 things in your surroundings will do. Okay, and we promised a little meditation, but we're really short on time. So I'm going to do just a quick 60-second little relaxing meditation with you guys today. I'll ask you to all feel really comfortable in your space. You can close your eyes. I promise that it's completely safe for you to close your eyes in this space. And start with a big exhale. Because even when you're focusing, you're holding your breath. We hold our breaths. And then go to the inhale. Allow your body to completely fill with air on every inhale. Just see the air come in through your nostrils. Fill every portion of your body from the tip of your head all the way down to your toes with air. And as you exhale, allow your body to just relax back into its natural space. And by focusing on your breath in and out, you can add a color to it. Add a color to the air and visualize that glowing color enter in through your nostrils, down into your lungs, filling your belly, your body, warming you from the inside out. And as you exhale it, see that color swirl into the air around you, infusing it with your energy. On the inhale, bring the energy that surrounds you back inside, completely relaxing you There's no place you need to be in this moment. There's nothing you can do. Simply follow your breath in and out. And as I count to 5, you can open your eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm.
Hey, Lesley, you can wrap us up.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was getting gone there. So thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure all of you have to jump to meetings. I'm going to start posting all kinds of stuff on the site, all stuff that I'm digging out of our discussion here that you'll want as reminders. Also, Marissa will send you a copy of this. So go to CoveyClub.com, look for the content. We'll also be putting it out in the emails. And also follow us. You'll see it. Follow Covey Club and me. I'm Lesley J. Seymour, Lesley J. Seymour on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I also want to remind you that I happen to be working on a project down here, which is called Supplies for Saints, where we are gathering up extra masks and gowns and gloves for the people on the front line in our hospitals. It's something you can do in your community. In fact, it should be done in everybody's community because these people are our front line and they're getting sick because they don't have the proper gear. But you can look at Supplies for Saints, our Facebook page, and copy if you like. We also are happy to give you our little spreadsheet that you can copy. Hopefully that will be something that we can all do to help everybody. And let's take care of each other. Let's take care of the people on the front line. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dana. I couldn't start the day without you. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hi, all. See you tomorrow morning.
Have a great
Same
day.
time, same bat channel.
Right on.
We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Have a good day, ladies.